Orb on the Movements of the Earth, episode 6. Move the world. I will move the earth, I will move the world. I've come to ruin your life. It's sort of a virus, right? A mind virus. Whoa. Hold on a second. What kind of documents? It doesn't look like he was always a clergyman. That is a very astute question. Asking the right questions, my god. Oh, but we want life-changing. They absolutely will change your life. They could change your life. Well, now you've got my attention. Oh, this is my kind of clergyman. Why didn't you say so earlier? It's a long story. We fell in a river. Stone treasure chests in the mountains. My friend died. Something about the sun. At least teach me how to read or something. Talk to the audience. That's always death. This might turn out to be a mistake. Another foot and mouth moment, but based on this limited interaction, this guy's already kind of won me over for the most part. He's a little bit surly, but with all the shenanigans of this medieval world, who can blame him? You're always like one word away from getting mouth paired. What's it to you? I think I'd be a little bit defensive myself in this situation. Who's asking? I don't need to see any documents. I don't know anything about a document. What's that you say? Piss off the church. Why didn't you say that earlier? It's a bit rough to say he's bored to tears talking to the townspeople. And if that's coming from arrogance, not super admirable. Just guessing at it though. There's a part of it I can understand. Everyone does this to some extent, but you notice it in your field. People have preconceptions about what a thing is, and sometimes it feels like they really want to go through the pattern of talking about and like exerting their ideas of the preconceptions, which, you know, stripped of the annoyance of it, really it's another one of those like, there's a different game happening. It's not actually about exploring the thing. It's a social thing of finding mutual ground to connect on. But if your game is like really exploring the thing and you have so many interesting ideas about it and you feel like you're on the forefront of new discoveries in it day after day and you're pushing yourself, but then like people who've never explored it at all want to tell you what it is or like have you repeat the things that they expect that make them feel comfortable about it, it can be boring at best. Even worse, it can be a little bit frustrating if you feel like there's an agenda, there's some like emotional agenda, or they're trying to win over you or something like that. I mean, I sometimes feel this with political conversations because sometimes people like to throw it into conversations randomly as a sort of like ally or enemy test, which I don't really appreciate because I don't want to play that game. Like, I'm not your enemy or your ally for that matter. That's sort of irrelevant to me. Like, people will say a name and then expect you to be like awestruck with horror at the name like it's Voldemort. Also, I have a friend who was a math PhD and he used to joke about how like an alarming amount of times when he told people he was studying math, their response would be something like, what's 7 times 8? Which, like, come on, dude. That's not what I'm doing in my math PhD. Just memorize that, or like use your phone's calculator. Or like people see an article or a YouTube video and then proceed to share their wide array of expertise on the subject. And you're like, yes, please tell me more about this thing that you've been interested in for all of 30 seconds that I've devoted my life to. That might sound cynical, but I would say on the other extreme, when you meet someone who's genuinely interested, that's really fun. I mean, it's not the level of knowledge that's important. It's sort of the attitude and like what the conversation is for. You don't want to feel like there's traps there or you're playing into someone's weird posturing game or what have you. Give me that. You look a little bit excited. You look a little bit hooked here. Very eager. And almost perfect. Maybe a little bit of arrogance here. It was perfect. You just weren't accounting for a certain variable. He was so close. Really? That's cool. I didn't know that. I think you know a little more than you're letting on. You gotta commit. I need a real commitment. All or nothing. You need to be ready to piss off the church. If you're not, get out of my face. What's the deal with the church? What do you really want, man? How did you get here also? Why do you look like that? This guy's seen some stuff. He looks like what I imagine Rafal would have looked like if he survived and was confusingly put in the anime's intro in a way that made you think it was him as an adult. Thinking about it now, it's good that the current torchbearers for truth can fight, because that was Rafal's biggest weakness after arson. Maybe he ended up here not fully by choice, but like as a threat, like you join or else. Well, no wonder he feels like it's a waste of time. He's so productive. What are you, embarrassing everyone else? Oh, we got embarrassed. We got punished for excellence. You're flying too close to the sun. man. Making us feel small. Speaking of Socrates, this is not the glamorous Scar backstory I thought it might be. It's just terrible. Flagellate yourself. Even, oh my god, this is the ultimate like reverse Uno card in a terrible, terrible way. Because he's showing excellence in this self-torture that is the punishment for his excellence. How do you punish this? Stop it. Stop punishing yourself so well. So after episode 3, because of the Socrates parallels, I went back and read some of the apology. And there's a line I really liked, which I think applies to this situation, but also probably more broadly to the show as a whole. Wherefore, O judges, be of good cheer about death, and know this of a truth, that no evil can happen to a good man either in life or in death. And later on he says, I am not angry with my accusers or my condemners. They have done me no harm, although neither of them meant to do me any good, and for this I may gently blame them. Socrates is always a little bit cheeky with it. It's sort of a crazy thing to say that nothing bad can happen to a good man, because like Rafal died, and Socrates died, and this dude is whipping himself for being too productive at the job they gave him. But I think Rafal would agree with this, because it's a different calling, it's a different judgment of what reward and punishment is, and it's not necessarily the mortal life or its material rewards. This is a hard thing to like live, but maybe easier to feel in moments where some of the best things, the purest slipstreams of the heart, are things that nobody can give or control or take away. They are things that you have in connection with just a greater thing that exists outside of the material. It's in you. You're like a resonant tuning fork that's harmonizing with something bigger than yourself and bigger than any one man. And if that's your ever-present scale, like what are stupid people going to do to you? They can hurt you physically, they can take things away, they can even kill you, but they can never touch that thing. This I think is maybe one of the highest concepts of freedom, right? Like I think the entry point into talking about freedom is usually like I can go where I want, I can buy what I want, I can say what I want, talk to who I want, etc. Which I think is really important and like a wonderful goal to push freedom in one's life in those ways. But I also have the experience of having basically everything I could ask for or everything I'd always thought I wanted and feeling trapped. And I've had moments where things weren't going really well, but I knew who I was and I knew what I was doing. And for whatever reason, I was able to focus on that sort of spirit and I felt free. And also, maybe separately in this scene, people will tell you they want excellence. Many people will hate you for your excellence. Even people who really care about you, a lot of the time, they want you to be excellent in a way that doesn't threaten the way they think about the world and themselves. And once you step over that line, sometimes there's a conflict of interest there. People around you may really genuinely love you and still feel a little bit resentful of the ways you've been able to succeed, that they don't understand why they weren't able to succeed. Speaking of emergent beliefs, emergent realities, a lot of this is about control, hierarchy. Can't help but respect it though, no? That's interesting. His work is connected to a larger ethic, I think. But surely there's other things he's missing that could round out his conception. Oh. Okay, maybe this is it. So he's been looking for this. There's a little arrogance here, yeah. I have such mixed feelings about it though, because I also love it. I would say this is a lashing, but I don't know, it doesn't seem to have much use on you. That's so interesting. There's so many layers to it. The only thing flawed in there, because you could still argue that it's perfect, and that the flawed thing is the conception of what perfection means, or you're just not understanding the system well enough yet, which happens to be the case. It's a very weird, like, telephone game type value system that's just people kind of parroting each other, mirroring each other for order and acceptance and a bunch of other things. It's a weird, like, panopticon thing happening, which I think about all the time in modern life. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about, like, the whole ally-enemy thing. It's almost like there's secret club code words, or like a fraternity secret handshake, and they're just customs, as opposed to it really being about like a deep dive into the thing itself. That's probably the cause of a lot of miscommunication and hurt feelings. It's like love languages, but like for everyday discourse and interaction. God, it's so hard to analyze the show because everything has like 5 meanings. Oh, do we have a forbidden tome? We do! That's sort of heretical itself. We don't talk about the secret bookcase. What? I mean, I guess it depends on the application, right? You gotta interpret these things, you can't take them too literally. Lust for knowledge. I promise, I will not read the secret books.
君に研究はまだ早かった。知識ではなく精神がな。
不毛な処罰です。
では神のご加護。
Oh, F off. It's so infuriating. You can't do anything you love. You can't follow your passions. Your curiosity is a sin. And I will burn out your eyes, but, you know, God bless you. Have a wonderful day. It's so tricky, and this conversation is so great because there's just so many things happening at the same time. To look at each of them in the best possible faith I could think of. There's nothing wrong with his curiosity. He's following a really beautiful spirit of discovery. And this reminds me of the idea of the Protestant work ethic, which I think is really interesting. One of the elements of God is creation, and humans in a limited human way, but still maybe in like a similar pattern of God's creation, just at a much more minor or local scale, have that same power of creation and of industry. And so there's an argument to be made that like work and creation and that industry is one of the highest ways you can serve God. Whether or not this is true, I've read some analyses of America that is one of the foundational tenets of belief that led to America's extreme power in invention and innovation and production. As a side and personal note, American people sometimes have the stigma of being lazy, but I don't think that's exactly correct. I think Americans are very, very hardworking, but it doesn't always look like hard work compared to other countries where like, you know, you got to stay in the office till 9 p.m. or whatever. We're like focused on getting things done in a way that moves the needle. In other countries I've lived, sometimes I've noticed cultures of like busyness, which is not exactly the same thing as productiveness, but I digress. The potential pitfall here for him is thinking that this is more than it is, or like he's following a true spirit, but in some way still kind of on that scale of that material lesser reward. I will be the one that's significant, which is a little bit different from the much more open, peaceful, long-term views we've seen so far from like Rafal of my highest contribution is to be a cog in this eternal wheel. You know, this feels more like glory to me for my achievements. Earlier I said something like I don't hate that, and I think it's because it's not the worst starting place. You know, that's really beautiful energy. It's powerful. He can use that to do great things, and like, you know, his conception can catch up. Personally, I would prefer that, you know, this sort of ambition for excellence over like, nah, nothing really matters, it's stupid, that sort of nihilism, masquerading as wisdom and inner contentment. And I think his senior priest, though we could make the obvious critique of just being like way too simple-minded and stuck in his ways and overly fixated on the rules for the rules' sake, probably on some levels picking up on that element of it. And though I don't agree with the whole like curiosity is a sin thing here, I can try to give a generous reading to that too, which is like you do invite calamity by opening new doors. This is one of the interpretations of Pandora's box, right? Yeah, you found out some stuff, but like you may wish you hadn't. There's probably going to be a cost, at least at first. Maybe we can say it's not something to be done frivolously. Exploration is something to be done with respect and at least some degree of humility. Curiosity killed the cat, etc. Maybe we can say that the truth is beautiful universally, but maybe make sure that's the scale you're on. Because like, look what happened to Rafal. He made peace with it, but like, could everyone make peace with that? Is that a choice that you're ready to make? He doesn't understand the game that they're all playing. He's evaluating them based on his game and wondering why they're so stupid about it. And he may be right. We might agree with his game being a more desirable game, but there is some ignorance and not understanding that that's the game. Maybe a big reason why he's here is to get access to the bookshelf. Uh-oh. Speaking of curiosity killing the cat. He just like laid himself out for that book. He was thirsty for it. He's lusting for books. Do as I say, not as I do. Pandora's box. I'd totally read it. I would totally read it. Oh yeah, we were maybe gonna destroy it or burn it or something. Or... Whoa. He's gonna open it, isn't he? I'm too fast, can't catch me. The thrill of pissing you off. You just open it? These characters really can't help themselves. Yeah, Les may be right. You know, maybe right. That is a really interesting point. Yeah. This does make it weak. This is a very, very good critique and analysis that plays out again and again across so many things. Are we gonna do it right here? Okay. It's only some compassion. So far. Oh no. No compassion. Oh, I thought he was going to be compassionate. This is terrible. You're a real jerk. I'll pray for you. Okay, he just took one. It's still, I mean, it's still awful, but like small mercy maybe. The other dude wouldn't have fingernail dude. He would have taken both eyes and the fingernails, and he would have put stuff in your mouth after psychologically torturing you for a while. Count your blessings, you know? Man, this show continues to impress. Out of all the criticisms he could have made, that was one of the most interesting and best ones I can think of. This isn't even good for the church. You think it is, because you're looking at it in this moment. This is one of the vulnerabilities of what I think is maybe a commonly held viewpoint of like, when it comes to ideology, the ends justify the means. So like, the ideas are so important. We're trying so hard to prevent terrible things from happening. And people are not smart enough to think for themselves. A lot of people are just stupid, or they don't care, or it's just too difficult to explain everything. So we just gotta brainwash them. Just give them an emotional message, get them on our side, get them to do the right thing, and it'll all be worth it in the end. Putting aside what maybe is actually the biggest problem of that, of like, who gets to decide? Are you sure you're right? And are people really that stupid that you're so much smarter than them? You know, like there's some arrogance there. Just logistically, this plants the seeds of its own destruction. Because what you've now done is you've set the stage for the war of life and societies and people and ideas to not be based on information or truth or argument, and instead on the very dubious means by which you're approaching it through like lies or emotion or whatever, which means that your enemies will catch on and they will use the tactics against you. And people will have become so primed to thinking in this way and dealing with each other in this way that they have become less resilient, less guarded to like absolute true evils, which will definitely be exploited by other groups. And the more you fight that war and dig yourself deeper and deeper into that hole, the less real truth even has any hold anymore. So it all becomes about weird spins and label casting and emotional appeals and fear as a weapon. And some of the results you see from this are like just insane hysteria, polarization, extreme hyperbolic thinking. So like, this is the good side that's always good and this is the evil side. And if we don't destroy the evil will destroy us. For just every issue that comes up, always. Speaking of getting bored in discussions, I'm a little bit tired of hysteria. For everything, always. You use emotion and hysteria to rile people up. And like, we also having a responsibility in this because we're participants are hysterical and riled up. And then we like wonder why people are so extreme in their viewpoints and like why people are so hysterical and why they're so afraid and why they're so angry. It's like, yeah, well, like you chose the tools of your war and like now we're fighting the war using those tools. And it's going to be really hard to go back to anything like a structure of like real grounded truth and reason and kindness and respect for others and just good faith debate because we threw that away. We haven't been practicing it. So it feels uncomfortable. And like, even though that's difficult, that probably will run its course eventually. The truth will come out, which is I think one of the themes of the show. And then what will often happen is people will realize that you were lying and associate that with your cause. And then your cause becomes the enemy. And maybe your cause was great, but your methods were bad. But like now it's all been thrown away. People don't trust you. People don't like you. People don't want to associate with you. It's a very short-sighted strategy.
書類を見よう。ただし、その観測日誌の続きを君が記録するのが
He's
条
been
件。
burned before by this, literally. This explains why he's here and why he
観
resents
測
being
方
here.
法はその日誌の絵で大体わかるだろう。
But he resented where he was earlier, too.
君のような下級市民の怪しい話に協力するんだ。せめてこのくらい貢献してくれ。
Thank you, Almighty One, Your Holiness.
いい夜空が見られないんですけど
It's scary. It's gonna burn you.
無理だ
Yes, you can.
こんなことしなきゃいけない理由なんてないぞ
Yeah, I mean, you want to run away, right?
そうだすぐにこんなの
This
捨
is
て
not
て
for me. It's not my place.
流れ物として別の町で一から人生を始めればいい
You know, I wouldn't hate him for
階級
doing
の最
that.
高層に落ちるけどもともと似
I
たよ
would
うなもん
understand
だ
it. It's not what we want, right? But
俺には死後天国があ
heaven,
る
right? Yeah. Just delay it for another day.
それに引き
And he
換え
doesn't even know the
あの人たちは
full weight of what he's holding, the legacy in this artifact.
俺の人生でたった二人たった二人彼らだけが死ぬその瞬間
They look peaceful. Yeah.
満足
They had
そうな
something.
顔をしてた
They're not just biding their time waiting for heaven.
いや
We looked, you did it.
絶望は希望に転化しうるのだ。
この世界に期待することだ。
でも
God is watching. And you are inadequate, but that's all right. I mean, even without any sort of spiritual reading, looking at this guy can be overwhelming just because of the size. You know, anyone who's laid on their back and looked at the clouds and has had that weird sensation of like, you could fall into it, knows that feeling.
初めてにしては上出来だ。
He looks so broken. This is so funny.
これは
宇宙が変わるぞ。
Will it? I mean, it might change society. It will change our knowledge of the universe. And it will change your life. You alright?
大丈夫ですか？
A little excited?
今吐き出したのはくだらん常識と積み上げた思い込みだ。
That's amazing.
これはすごいぞ。
That's hilarious. I just have to puke out all the pleb bullshit that I've been eating my whole life. Finally done with these pedestrians. All your words and thoughts were such thin gruel to my ears. In a weird way, like him vomiting is kind of a flex. Does that make sense? A little bit of a judgment in there, but you know, we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll harmonize all of it. We'll see everything in its place.
やはり神は間違えてなかったんだ。それどころか人類に理解可能に宇宙を作った。
That's a cool way of looking at it.
もっと端的に言うと地球は動いている。
Rafal did move the Earth.
人類はこの原因を解明することは諦め、せめて計算は可能にしようと努めた。その結果、理論は複雑化し、用いられる仮説も増えた。
When really, it was very simple. There was a mistake in the fundamental axioms.
だが地球が動けば可能だ。
It's relative. I don't fully understand the astronomy.
私より内側の円を回るように追い越してくれ。早く。
You're a planet.
今ので何が。
今の一瞬にプトレマイオスの1000年を覆す秘密
That's gotta be
が
such a
隠され
cool
ていた。
feeling, man. That's gotta be so amazing. Imagine the rush. His ambition paid off.
君からはどう見えた？
You were moving forwards and backwards. You were
ま
moving
ず最初の
forwards
地点では
relative to the stick, but backwards relative to me. It was sort of generous of him in a way to let him be the focal point and have this experience rather than him be the one running. I want to be Earth. You be Mars this time.
どちらがよりシンプルかわかるだろう。
That was actually a great explanation for my peasant brain.
あの石箱は人類に説いている。展開は
It really is Pandora's
崇高で
box.
荘厳で偉大で広大で。
But then, like, throw in the thing they've said a couple times of despair can turn to hope. That's how to look at first. It'll come out and cause all sorts of havoc. But that's not the end of the story. For that matter, speaking of religion, you can maybe look at the story of Adam and Eve as a parallel to Pandora's box. Because they eat the fruit and they get the wisdom, and it's like terrible because they're naked and they're vulnerable. And now there's evil. But that also is what unlocks the higher faculties of man and takes them out of that just beast-like reactionary chemical animal world and into something a little bit more expansive, more creative, more constructive, and in a very micro way, a mirror for God, or created in God's image, if you will. The same faculties that allow you to abstract and think about time and the future in the past and the present, and look not just at yourself and your own desires, but at other people's motivations and to predict, is the mechanism by which you can build and harness patterns of the world for invention, but also the means by which you can scheme and plot to harm your fellow man and have an abstract knowledge of his pain and his vulnerabilities, the one that allows you to lie and cheat. It's all the same thing. That's the double-edged sword of new awareness.
展開と地球が調和。まさか展開はこの地球と一緒で
We immediately went there,
汚れて
huh?
ると。
もしくは我々の
Maybe
住
it's
む
as
大地は
divine as,
醜い底辺として
the
切り
universe.
離されてなどなく
or maybe it's complicated and it's a mix of all these things.
なんて
We can look. We can finally look. And this is the first time he's seeing stars as they are,
なんか
and not as eyes of judgment. This
今日の空
subtle animated
なん
breeze
か
was a
綺麗
great
じゃ
choice.
ないですか。
Yep. Same view. Same thing that
その
Rafal
何かを
experienced in the jail cell.
絶対にする方法が一つだけあるぞ。世界を動かせ。
Feels like he's finally been activated. He's been waiting for this for so long. He has so much energy and reserves to spare, especially now that he puked out the commoner, that boring, putrid stink of peasant think. Sometimes I wonder about the timing of these shows, and I can never prove anything or pin anything down, but we can at least say it's plausible as a narrative, right? That shows often are a symptom of their times, and shows are most gripping when they are like cutting edge for their times. Personally, I believe that Attack on Titan came out at a very critical moment, though it also just could have been my perception. Well, actually, it doesn't really matter. What I'm saying is I think the show is really important. I think the ideas in the show are really important, and I think it's a really cool backboard and counterforce to some of the questions I see being asked a lot, either in an explicit or implicit way, in a bunch of ways simultaneously, like the fact that religion seems to have taken a major blow and lost a lot of its grip on the world, or at least certain societies. And maybe that's exactly because of the things that he pointed out. You know, if you go down this road, it's for a cause that you believe to be good, and maybe it actually is a great cause, but you're going to lose people this way, and you're going to make yourself fragile, and you're going to be defeated. And then, like I said when I was rambling about the weakness of that, one of the effects sometimes is that when people reject the lie, they reject the whole thing. And so religion is almost like a no-touch zone. It's radioactive. You just say the word God or the Bible, and a lot of people are ready to bite your face off or burn your eyes out because we all know the lies of it. And then because that's the game we're playing, the counter to that is like doubling down on the parts of it that people have already rejected. Like, no, it's just true, which makes the other side even more angry, etc., etc. So there's no actual discussion happening about like the merits of faith and the insight that can be found through like a real dedicated, rigorous study of religion that doesn't require lies or even faith beyond the faith that science demands. Because as much as we think our quote-unquote scientific view of the universe is faithless, nobody wants to answer the question of the Big Bang. Or if you can answer the question of the Big Bang, what is the origin of the Big Bang, etc., etc., until you get to a point where like you're going to have to take something on faith eventually. But speaking of Pandora's box and havoc coming out of information, there definitely are risks, and I would argue have been costs to the casting aside of religion. One of them is structure, which I think is actually the real game of the enforcers, though they're taking it way too far in committing evil in its name. A common basis of core understanding that lets people relate to each other and like have a grounding for the rules of society that isn't just like some jerk in government is telling me these are the rules. What does that jerk know about my life? What I think is something like a tacit giving up on the search for something like objective meaning and truth, and so it's all just meaningless. So sometimes nihilistic, or meaning is what I make it and meaning is my pleasure, so I'm just gonna like enhance my pleasure as much as possible and that will make me feel fulfilled, which it won't. There's a certain cynicism about purity and beauty. Things that we once may have treated as sacred, even if they were for the wrong reasons, are now being treated as disposable, and there are just no lines we can't cross. Speaking in extremes, I mean, this is not the total assessment. I'm just talking about this as an element. And it's also hilarious in a dark way that like it's laughable to us, or at least that's the first instinct, to see people think that the earth is the center of the universe and to like kill to defend that idea. But I'm confident everyone alive today in some way has something that if it were to be scrutinized would be equally ridiculous, if not now, in the future. And we just repeat things because there actually is a utility to certain dogmas. We get something out of it. It fulfills the game we won't admit we're playing, whether that's personal comfort or pride or fitting in. Rigor is tough, it's challenging, but there's beauty on the other side. And I think it's worth thinking about always trying to fight the highest, most good faith battle that you can fight, because that's what's going to win in the end anyway, just like the truth is going to come out here. And you want to usher that along as fast as possible. And in the meantime, all the things that get that wrong, that sort of hide from the truth, that are stubborn or arrogant, not only does that slow down this quest for beauty, but it also inflicts a lot of pain along the way for people who may turn out to be the best of us, who are the most looking for truth and have the best of intentions, but they don't fit into the current dogma, so they are threats and they're exiled or harmed or ridiculed. Maybe the more we try to tap into that spirit and to like look at the sky, the highest possible thing, let ourselves be burned in the purifying fire, not get attached to our own egos and arrogance, to understand the games we're playing and why we're playing them, maybe that actually is the way to move the earth.